Welcome back to Redgate Ranch Homestead. I'm excited to be in the kitchen with you today because we've got a special recipe for you. It's Irish stew. And there's nothing better in the fall than a nice, delicious, hearty stew. And I wanted to share this recipe with you. It only takes a few ingredients. I've got a couple of onions, some celery, some carrots, some thyme, garlic, beef stew. I've got about 2 pounds of beef stew here, and some beef stock with a little bit of tomato paste. It is going to be wonderful. We're going to cook it in a Dutch oven, and it's just going to be so tender and juicy and so hearty. We're going to serve it over whipped potatoes. No one will go away from your table hungry when you serve this. And I want to do a special shout out to my friend Mary Murphy in Ireland. Thank you, Mary, for inspiring me in so many ways. You've been a really special friend, and I want to dedicate this Irish stew to you. I hope you enjoy it. And follow along with me, and I'll show you how to make Irish stew. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pat dry this stew beef. Be sure to get it nice and dry. And we're going to cook this in a couple of batches. We're going to take 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and we're going to take about half a teaspoon and season our flour that we're going to dredge this stew beef in. I'm going to put a little pepper on it, half a teaspoon. We'll stir that together. I'm going to turn the stove on to about medium. We're going to take the stew beef and start to dredge that in our flour. This is going to help thicken the stew. It'll make a nice gravy for us. We're going to cook this in a couple of batches, and I'll bring you back as soon as we've got it all lightly browned. Look at all that yummy goodness in the bottom of the pan. We're going to add 2 onions chopped coarsely and about 3 stalks of celery chopped coarsely. We're going to put a little bit of salt in here so the onions can sweat and bring up that wonderful fond in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, and we're just going to toast that on the bottom of the pan. And now I'm going to put in about 2 to 3 cloves of garlic chopped. Next, we're going to put in a quart of beef stock. And now it's time to add our stew beef back in. Now we're going to put some fresh thyme in, and you don't have to take the leaves off the stem. They will cook, and it'll be easier to take the stems out of the stock than it is to take the leaves off the stem. So we'll put that in there and let that flavor our stock. We're going to put it in an oven at 300 degrees for about an hour. And after that hour, we'll put our carrots in there and cook it for another 30 to 45 minutes. That smells so yummy. Next, we're going to add our carrots. That a quick stir. I also added 3 bay leaves to this a little earlier. We're also going to add a little bit of salt. Had a lot of vegetables in here, so I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt. Give that a stir. Then we're going to put the lid back on, and we're going to put it back in the oven until the meat is fork tender. Now we're going to make some Irish soda bread, and it calls for 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of soda, baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to sift that all together. We're going to put in 3 tablespoons of butter. You could use a pastry cutter for this part. I always just use 2 butter knives, and I just cut the butter into the flour until it looks like wet sand. Next, we're going to put just a little well. We're going to add a slightly beaten egg into 3/4 cup of buttermilk. Okay. I put a little butter in the bottom of my cast iron pan. I'm going to turn this out. You don't want to overwork this dough. It's like a little quick bread. It's a little shaggy, but it's supposed to be that way. Now we're going to cut it across about a 1/2 inch into the bread. And we do this so the evil spirits will be able to escape. Now we're just going to put this in our pan. Okay. I think I got a few more evil spirits in there. I gotta make sure they get out of there. Okay. And then we're going to bake this at 375 degrees for about 20 to 30 minutes or until it's brown. Okay, we're going to cook our soda bread. Look how wonderful that bread looks. I'm just going to take it out. and put it on this cooling rack for about 30 minutes. That's going to be so delicious. We're making our mashed potatoes now, and I have some potatoes boiling in some water, salt, and chives. And of course, we're going to drain some of this liquid off. And we're just going to mash these. Kind of a rough mash. And one of the most important things you want to do when you do mashed potatoes is bring your milk and butter up to a boiling temperature before you add it to the potatoes. That way your potatoes won't be lumpy. They'll be nice and creamy. I like for my potatoes to have a little bit of texture to them. That will make a nice bed for our Irish stew. Well, let's get ready to plate this up. Oh, it smells just so good. We're going to get the thyme stems out. Then the last thing I like to do is add 1 cup of frozen green peas, English peas. I just wish you were here to smell this. It is so fragrant. I can't wait to try this. So to serve this, I like to serve it on a bed of mashed potatoes. A nice, lovely piece of this soda bread. Just look at that goodness. This is a feast for a king. The meat is so tender, and the potatoes, they're very rustic, which is just a good down-home meal. Mm. It's wonderful. Now we're going to try the soda bread. Mm. It's tender. The outside is crunchy. It really goes great with this stew. I hope you all get a chance to try this. Mary, thank you for inspiring this meal. I love you, and I'll see you all in the next video.